ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पतान् शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनं श्रीमहागणाधिपतये नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। Om. Dear friends, we are reading this Viveka Chudamani. We are still in the beginning. We were reading the 21st shloka in the last class. This is about Vairagya. So in the beginning, Shankaracharya told about the greatness of human life. Then he said about what has to be done, what has to be done by a man, what are the objectives of a human being. The greatest goal is to know the meaning of life. And then he is now telling who is eligible, the person who is eligible for this type of enquiry. And earlier he has said that without enquiry there is no meaning in life. You have to inquire, every man has to inquire as to what is the meaning in life. So that is what he said. And who is competent? Adhikari. So that Adhikari, we are seeing that particular thing. And in fact, we completed that also. And the fourfold sadhana chatushtayam, the person who is equipped with the fourfold, say, practices, spiritual practices. So he is eligible for, the next class, which is the higher class, which is called Brahma Vidya. So that is where we are. And then we saw in the last class, among the fourfold sadhanas, we saw what is called Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka. That is a discrimination of what is eternal and what is non-eternal. Then Iha Amutra Phala Bhoga Viraga, we saw that. Iha means here, Amutra means there. So the results which are obtained in this world by performing yajnas, etc., yajna, dana, etc., etc., and then the results which we are going to obtain by virtue of yajna, it may be yajna, it may be any other thing. The other world, as we say, we talk about Ihaloka and Paraloka, that is this world and the heavenly worlds. So that one has to develop Vairagya for that also, because those heavenly worlds are also impermanent. It is not as though they are permanent, and they are only extension of physical pleasures. There is no Viveka, there is no Chintana, there is no Viveka. The ego is still there. The ego and then the selfishness is still there. A man like Dharmaraja, he feels unhappy when he goes to heaven and sees Duryodhana also there. When Dharmaraja goes to heaven, he sees Duryodhana also there. How is that this bad fellow has come to say this heaven? So like that, even when one goes to heaven, there is no liberation from ego. Liberation, that ego is still there. That all our enemy, all our feelings of love, hatred, jealousy, etc., are still there. Then the third point is Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti, Shama, Dama, Uparati, Titiksha, etc., which we are now seeing. Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti is the third one. Mumukshutvam is the fourth one. Then again he explained what is this Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka. Then he is now describing what is Vairagya. Viveka, Iha Mutra Phalabhoga, Vairagya, he is explaining. That is what we were reading in the last class, that is 21st shloka. Tad Vairagyam Jihasaya Darshana Shravanadibhihi. That is shloka which I read. We were in the middle of that explanation. Dehadi Brahma Paryante Hyanitye Bhogavastuni. So that is what it is. So here, Tad Vairagyam Jugupsa, our Shungeri edition says Jugupsa, this Ramakrishna Mission edition says Jihasa, almost one and the same. Jihasa is the desire to give up. Hatum Icha, Ha, O Hak, Tyage is the root. So that is, Jihasa is a desire to give up, a desire to relinquish. Jugupsa is seeing the vulgarity, seeing the futility, seeing the uselessness, and then protecting yourself from that, keeping away from that. That is what is Jugupsa. Gupadhatu, Gupu is Rakshane, Gupa Rakshane. That is protecting oneself from all this nonsense. That is it. Protecting oneself from this nonsense, something which is abhorring, something which is hateful. So that is what is called Jugupsa. So both are almost one and the same. Tad vairagyam jugupsa ya darshana shravanadibihi. Darshana shravanadibihi is the human life is full of this darshana and shravana. Now we have got Dura Darshana and Dura Shravana, etc., etc. We have got so many, say, entertainment programs on TV. We have got so many other programs. Every day there is some program going on. So a person over a period of time sees the futility. So a child may get attracted for some time, but after some time a person he sees the futility of all that. It is though so predictable, it is so futile. Every fellow is coming out and telling some morals, and we know that every person is say having his own agenda, etc. And very little say substance we see there. So a person gets dejected after some time. So that sort of dejection is what is being talked about. And that dejection is something which has to be a result of vairagya. It should not be a temporary dejection. About temporary dejection, there is a term called Purana Vairagya. Purana Vairagya means you go to suddenly some friend invites you to a satsang, and then you go and attend that satsang. And in that satsang, okay, that Mahatma speaks in such an impressive way. Of course, there are several people who speak in a very, very impressive way. And then there are really sincere people also. So they speak in such a sincere and then such an impressive way that a person is temporarily under the influence. So for a few hours he is under that influence, or at least, if not few hours, at least 1 or 2 hours. And then after coming home, immediately again, we are now back into our own, say, routine activity and routine, say, emotions of love, hate, etc. So that is what is called Purana Vairagya. As long as you listen to Purana, you are having that Vairagya. Another Vairagya is Smashana Vairagya. Suppose you see the death of somebody, then suddenly, oh, this is all impermanent, people are going to die. Okay, we are also going to die sometime. So suddenly some fleeting thought like that comes, and then that fleeting thought disappears immediately. So that is what is called Smashana Vairagya. So Vairagya should not be such some sudden and impulsive development. It should be something which is the result of a proper Viveka. Viveka has to lead to Vairagya, because we are seeing that all these steps, Sadhana Shatkam, this Sadhana Chatushtayam, one leading to the other, one leading to the other. Even in this Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti also, Shama is leading to Dhamma, Dhamma is leading to next Uparati, etc. It is leading, one leading to the other. So that is what we see. So Dehadi Brahma Paryante Hyanitye Bhogavastuni. So Anitye Bhogavastuni. Anitya means something which is ephemeral, which is non-eternal. Then Bhogavastu. Bhogavastu is object of pleasure. In all the objects of pleasure, Bhogavastuni, in all the objects of Vastuni, of course, he is using singular only. It doesn't matter. In the objects of pleasure, we can take it as plural also. In the objects of pleasure, one has to develop what is this jihasa. And what are these objects of pleasure? Dehadi Brahma Paryanta. Deha, starting with Deha. Deha is what? Deha is the body. Deha is that Diha Upachaye. The meaning of Deha is Diha Upachaye. From the root Diha. Diha means, Upachaya means collecting. Every day you eat some food and then the body grows and grows and grows. It keeps on, it is maintained like that. It grows for some time and it is maintained like that for some time. It is sustained like that till the end. So that is why it is called Deha. So that is Deha Upachaye. And then with all these 5 senses, with the 5 senses we are deriving so many, say, pleasures, pain, etc., etc. Not always pleasure, but pleasure, pain and all these things which we are having every day. And then there is so much of predictability and there is so much of, say, dullness in all these things that a human life is characterized by boredom after some time. So that is what is human life. So, and not only that, Dehadi means what? Starting from Deha. Deha, of course, is like this the 5 senses and the mind receiving all these impressions, going about daily activities, etc. It goes on and on like that. Then the next is Brahma Paryanta, means up to Brahmaloka, means from this human life to Brahmaloka, there are several other steps which our Puranas talk about. For example, various lokas. There is what is called Swarga. It is otherwise called Pitruloka. Some other person does some upasana. Suppose somebody is some sort of upasana of some Krishna or something like that. So people say, their followers, they believe that there is what is called a Goloka. Somebody else is a worshipper of Shiva. He believes that there is what is called a Kailasa. So all these are lokas, or certain emotional states. In fact, Shankaracharya says very, very clearly in all these bhashyams that all what we call loka is only a happy state of existence. It is only a very pleasant, happy state of existence where after the fall of this body, the linga sharira, or the subtle body, it is in that state of happiness for some time, and then again it comes down to find some other body. You see, you watch a movie, or you attend some very nice say music say some Karnataka music or some music program, and then that impression lasts in your mind for some time. So you are in heaven for some time. You are in that Gandharva Loka for some time, because Gandharvas, they are known for their musical talents, etc. Suppose you listen to very great, very enchanting, very captivating devotional music. So your mind is very purified, and then in that pious state of mind or pure state of mind, we stay for a couple of hours, so let us say. So that time it is almost like it is being in that Gandharva Loka. So depending on our own vasanas, the accumulation of our own vasanas, vasana means that is those impressions which are there stored in our own mind, which influence our future behavior. So that is what they are called vasanas. So with all this, we create our own world, we create our own Goloka, we create our own say Kailasa, we create our own some other Loka. So all these Lokas, they are ephemeral. They are only in proportion to the intensity of the storehouse which you have, the quantum of storehouse which you have. But then again, after some time, just as the influence of a say music program, Karnataka music program wanes away, similarly that also wanes away, and then one comes back to seek another birth, isn't it? So that is what is a loka. Then Brahma Loka is that Hiranyagarbha Loka. That is, Hiranyagarbha Loka is the highest attainment by say all good activities, and then all yajna, yaga, then say dhanam, tapas, etc., etc. And then there again, if you are going through karma, there is no progress. From there you return. If you have gone through vidya, that is upasana and all that, there what we say is Shukla Gati, Krishna Gati, we have seen in what is this Gita, Bhagavad Gita. So from there is a chance that you get enlightened in that loka itself, and from there you get released from the bondage of this sort of linga sharira also. That linga sharira drops away. So that is what happens. So all that of course we will see later, because all that right now it may not make much sense to a total newcomer to Vedanta. So dehadi brahma paryante bhogya vastuni vairagyam. So that is what is vairagyam. That is, whatever we enjoy in this life, or whatever we visualize as enjoyment in the heavenly worlds, all that is something which is ephemeral. So that sort of sense, clear understanding gives vairagya, that is dispassion. Then the next shloka is it is defining what is shama. Shama, there is what is called Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti, we have seen. Shamadhi Shatkam. Shatkam means a group of 6. What are these 6? He is explaining one by one. Virajya Vishayavratad Dosha Drushtya Muhurmuhu Swalakshye Niyatavastha Manasashyama Uchyate. Virajya Vishayavratad. Vishayavratad Virajya. Vishayavratad is in Panchami Vibhakti. You know that Apadane Panchami. You are getting away from that. Apadana means getting separated from that. So Vishayavratad, you are getting separated. Virajya. That is, Virajya is what? Viraga only. Viraga is Virajya. Raga is attachment. Attachment or fascination or passion, that is Raga. Viraga, this is Lyap Pratyaya becomes Virajya. That is having developed dispassion. So Virajya, that Lyap Pratyaya indicates having done something, having developed Vairagya. So having developed Vairagya, from what? Vairagya from Vishayavratat, that is having disconnected yourself from the host of all these attractive objects. Vishaya is object. Vrata means a host, a group, let us say. From the host of all these attractive things, you have developed Vairagya. Having done, and how are you developing it? Dosha Drushtya, not out of some impulse, not because somebody said it is wrong or something like that. Not that you did not get, not in the grapes or sour situation, So Vishaya, this is dosha drushti. Dosha drushti means that is seeing the defect in that. Dosha means defect. Dosha drushti means seeing the defect. When can you see the defect in a person, defect in a thing? It is only when you inspect. When you do some deliberation, when we do some deliberation or inspection properly, then we know that it is something wrong. So then only we get dispassion. So this sort of dispassion, which is a result of this vairagya, this dosha drushti, which is the result of that viveka, leads to that vairagya. Then again, that should be always. It is not as though you have say developed some temporary dispassion. Muhurmuhuhu, it says. Muhurmuhuhu means again and again and again. Because we read in Gita also, Indriyani pramathini haranti prasabham manaha. These indriyas are like horses which drag you every time. So they have to be constantly controlled. You have to constantly hold the reins. If you don't hold the reins, they drag you. So that is the meaning of muhurmuhuhu. Muhurmuhuhu is again and again. Then swalakshye niyatavastha. Swalakshya, in one's own goal. Swa means one's own. Lakshya is goal. Swalakshye niyata avastha. Niyata means fixed. Niyata avastha. The mind is fixed there. That is, our goal is this. The destination is this. So that is what is manasaha shama uchyate. Shama means, in fact, shama is otherwise more, there is a smaller definition for shama. Antarindriya nigraha shamaha. That is, antarindriya is antahkaranam, the mind. Nigraha means controlling the mind, is shama. That is, the mind is jumping here and there. Mind is being dragged by all these indriyas. So controlling the mind by vairagya. Mind can be controlled only by analysis. Mind cannot be controlled without analysis, without say self-inquiry. So that sort of control of mind and fixing the mind in a calm, keeping the mind in a calm manner is what is called shama. And in fact, the shama root is also very interesting. Shama, from that root only, the word shanti comes. Shanti is from shama, shamadhatu. That is, you have restrained your mind. That shanti is a state of mind. We usually hear the terms Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. What is this Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi? We translate it as Om, peace, peace, peace. Peace means it can be any type of peace. You can put some bombs on a country and then see that the entire country just keeps quiet, and then you say that it is all peaceful. So that is one type of peace. Sometimes in law and order situations we impose some curfew, or you just open fire and kill one or two people and then everything is quiet. So we say yes, peace, the situation is peaceful, we say. There is what is called a situation report. That situation report says situation is peaceful. So is it peace really? There is no peace, because the warring groups, they have that hatred, that nurturing of hatred is still there in their minds. So it is not a situation of peace. Peace is a situation where the minds are restrained. From both sides, the minds are restrained. So the superpowers, they don't even think of hurling bombs on a country and keeping it under control. They won't even get the idea of hurling bombs. So that is what is peace. And here some other man doesn't have the idea of creating some doing some terrorist act in some other place. So that is what is peace. So long as that hatred is there in the mind, it is not peace. Outwardly there can be peace, but inwardly it is not peace. So Shama is a very deep, it has a very deep meaning. Shama is the result of the control of mind. So that is why we talk about Tapatraya, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We talk about Adhyatmika, Adhibhautika and Adhidaivika. That is, within our own self, there should not be any sort of disharmony within oneself, within one's own self. And there should not be disharmony with other people, Adhibhautika, other people or in the external environment. Then Adhidaivika, our understanding of the divine, there should not be any conflict or disharmony. So this is the meaning of these three types of tapas. Adhibhautika tapa, trividha tapa we say, tapatrayam we say. So this Shama is a very important word. So mind should be kept in a very calm state, that quietude of mind, where the mind is not vacillating, mind is not dragged about. So that state is Shama Uchyate. Then the next shloka talks about after Shama is Dama. Dama is the simple explanation for the simple definition for Dama is Bahyendriya Nigraha Damaha. That is restraining the external, restraining the Indriyas. My eye is moving, but my mind is restraining. So even that mind, that eye has to be controlled. So eye can be controlled only when the mind is controlled, isn't it? One cannot, then Gita, what is that sloka is there? Mithyachara sauchyate, there is a sloka which says, that is, one has not controlled the mind, and then the Indriyas are going about to various sense objects, but you are forcibly controlling your Indriyas. So that is not Dhamma, that is Mithyachara. Mithyachara is hypocrisy. So maybe out of fear, maybe out of some other reason, you are not going and grabbing it. Otherwise you will go and grab. So that is the situation. That is what is, that sort of control is not actual self-control. So this self-control is a situation where mind is tutored first, mind is educated first. When the mind is properly educated, then the mind controls the eye, the mind controls the tongue, the mind controls senses, other senses. So it is like that. So Vishayebhyah Paravartya Sthapanam Swasvagolake, this 23rd sloka. Vishayebhyah Paravartya Sthapanam Swasvagolake Ubhayesham Indriyanam Sadamah Parikirtitah. So Vishayebhyah Paravartya. So here also Vishayebhyah is in Panchami Vibhakti, Apadane Panchami. You are getting separated from all those objects, sense objects. Vishayebhyah Paravartya. Paravartya means having turned them back. Avartanam is coming again and again, isn't it? Punaravartate, he comes down again and again, we have heard Nasa Punaravartate, etc. Isn't it? Avartanam, Vartadhatu, Vartate, Avartate. So this is Paravartya. Para is another Upasarga. That is having turned back, having pulled it back, Paravartya. Sthapanam Swasvagolake. What sthapanam of what? Ubhayesham Indriyanam Swasvagolake sthapanam. That is Anvaya. Ubhayesham Indriyanam, the two types of Indriyas. That is the sense organs and the organs of action. There are these 5 organs of action corresponding to the sense organs. We have 5 sense organs, and corresponding to each sense organ there is a organ of action. So these organs of action also we are keeping under control. So that is what is called Dhamma. And Swasvagolake, in their own Gola. Gola means, Gola actually means a sort of ball. Suppose you see this eye. This Akshi is in a socket. So this socket is called this Gola, or rather the physical part of that body. The physical part of that body is called Indriya Gola. And then the capacity is called Indriya Shakti. The Indriya Shakti, the capacity to see, the capacity to feel, that is the Indriya Shakti. That is the capacity. Then Gola is that physical object. So that is the difference between Gola and then the sense. So the senses have to be restrained in their own Golakas. They should not be allowed to go out of their Golakas. Vishay Ubhayesham Indriyanam Sa Damaha Parikirtitah. So that is what is Dhamma. And in this context, our Swamiji, Chandrasekhara Bharati Swamiji, has quoted that particular line from Kathopanishad also. In Kathopanishad you get one shloka, Atmanam Rathinam Vidhi Shariram Rathamevatu. There is a visualization, the visualization of human being as a Ratha. Ratha means a chariot. So the self is like the owner of that Ratha. He is the person who is the boss of that. Atmanam Rathinam Vidhi Shariram Rathamevatu. This Sharira, body-mind complex, is that Ratham. And then Buddhim tu Sarathim Vidhi. Buddhi, that capacity to discriminate, that is what is called Buddhi. Capacity to think, capacity to decide, that is what is Buddhi. Buddhim tu Sarathim Vidhi. He is the Sarathi. Sarathi means the charioteer, the driver. Then Manaha Pragrahamevacha. This mind is the reins. And then Indriyani Hayanahuhu. These 5, Indriyas, they are like the horses which are dragging the chariot. So if the Buddhi does not control, and buddhi has to control it through the mind only, and this mind is like the reins. He has to hold the reins and hold the reins straight, and then hold the horses from jumping about. So that is what is the visualization given in this Kathopanishad. So in that explanation, that Swamiji has quoted that explanation also. So controlling these indriyas is like controlling the horses. So that is about the Dhamma. Dhamma is Danti. From Dhamma there is another word called Danti. Like Shanti, there is another word called Danti. Shantudu gani, Dantudu gani, Dantulu gani, Vedantulu gani. There is a line from Tyagaraja's Kirtana. Okay. So the next is only one line. Bahyanalambanam vruttehe Esha uparatiruttama. Bahyanalambanam vrutte resho uparatiruttama. So that is the line. Bahya analambanam. That is not getting fixed to external objects. Alambanam is what? Alambanam is taking a support, getting fixed to that. That is what is alambanam. I am taking alambanam of something. Suppose I am carrying a walking stick. So that is my alambanam, it is my support. Bahya is external objects. So this vrutti, bahya analambanam vruttehe. That is, the vrutti is a word which has to be understood now. Vrutti refers to a particular mental state. In the sense, not an abnormal state, any state, any mental state. Suppose I look at this particular cup. So my mind, say, it takes the form of this cup. The moment I see a thing, what happens in the mind? Suppose I see this. The mind actually, it takes the form of this cup. So that is what, and mind stays with that idea, stays with that image for some time. Or maybe a moment, maybe next say moment itself I look at some other object, my mind takes the shape of that particular object. So this staying with a particular object, external object, is called vrutti. Not only I smell something, suppose, I realize that smell. So that I stay with that idea for that moment, and next moment that idea may change. So this vrutti is a particular state of mind. That is a thought frame, you can say, a particular frame of thought or a thought frame. The vrutti, actually the meaning of vrutti is vartate, from the root vartate. Vartate means to be, existing. That is vartate anaya iti vruttihi. So you are staying with that idea. So that is what is vrutti. All our alochanas, all our thinking, all our thoughts, they are actually vruttis. Buddhi vrutti, it is called buddhi vrutti. Or chitta vrutti, it is called yogaha chitta vrutti nirodhaha, you get that word. Chitta vrutti means various, say, thoughts. The simplest translation is thought. Vrutti actually means a thought also. I see this thing, and then this image which is there in my mind, that is a thought, that is in the form of a thought. So that particular, say, state of say, thought frame is a vrutti. So in the mind there is a continuous flow of this, say, these thoughts. So that is called chitta srotaha. That commentary on that, say, that particular sutra, yogaha chitta vrutti nirodhaha, that commentator writes, there is a continuous stream of this, say, consciousness, stream of thoughts. So he writes. So here, chitta vrutti should not hold on to the external objects. Then what should it hold on to? So chitta vrutti has to be withdrawn. And then chitta vrutti, in fact, Vedanta is going to say further, we are going to see that what all alochana we do. Even this Brahma Jnanam is nothing but chitta vrutti. You see, when I look at an object, it is a vrutti of a physical object. Then I sit quiet in my room and then I deliberate on something. So all these vruttis, or this whole thought process, they are also vruttis only. And I read a book of Vedanta or listen to some Swamiji, and that Swamiji is talking about Atma Jnana. So this Atma Jnana is also chitta vrutti. So that is why we are going to see later that chitta vrutti is very, very essential. It is not as though chitta vrutti has to be totally discarded. Chitta vrutti is very essential. It will lead you up to Atma Jnana. And then there that chitta vrutti also drops away, fades away. So of course there are two technical terms for that chitta. Phala, what is this? Vrutti vyapyatvam and phala vyapyatvam. There are two big words there. I will explain later. So that is Vritti Vyapya means this Vritti only is going to lead you right up to that Brahma Jnana. And then once a person realizes that one is just pure consciousness, even that Vritti also fades away. So that is the experience of a realized person. That is the experience of a Jnani. So we will see that. So here simply if we understand that Vritti is a thought frame or a particular idea, it is enough. In fact, this Chitta Vritti is also explained in very many Vedanta texts, basic texts also. That is Vedanta Paribhasha, for example. It gives the example of a small reservoir. The Antahkaranam, the mind, is like a small reservoir. And from this reservoir, you are drawing water into a field, suppose. That field is in the shape of a triangle. So from that reservoir, that sluice, so the water flows out and then it goes into that field. It takes the form of a triangle. Or suppose the field is in the form of a rectangle. So the water also takes the form of a rectangle. So that is the example given in say Vedanta Paribhasha. Or you can as well, why instead of field you can put it into a cup. So the water takes the shape of this glass. So it is Antahkarana also. Antahkarana means the mind is also like that. The mind looks at an object, it takes the shape of an object. So that is what he says. This Antahkarana Avachinna Chaitanya and then Vishaya Avachinna Chaitanya, there is some different, that discussion goes on. I will tell later. So it is like that. So this Antahkarana always is full of these Chitta Vrittis. Right now it is enough if we know that. So Vrittehe Yesha Uparatihi. Uparati means withdrawal. Uparatihi Uttama. So that is, this Uparati is the withdrawal of the mind or Chitta Vrittis from the external objects. The simple meaning of this line is, Uparati is withdrawal of the mind from all the external objects. Otherwise the mind is clinging on. Alambanam literally means clinging on. It is just holding on to that. So from clinging on to these external objects, you are bringing it back. Then the next explanation, the next say word is Titiksha. So far we have seen Shama, Dama, Uparati. The fourth one is Titiksha. So Titiksha is, that is enduring. Enduring is what? Not foolishly enduring. Because the mind which has withdrawn from the external objects, you see, the mind which has withdrawn from external objects, it doesn't even observe much. When you are like a detective observing everything, then a detective is not fit for Vedanta. A person who totally ignores things is fit for Vedanta. Suppose you go to some hall, you don't even notice who are the people who are present there, and then you just go there, say just do your work and come out. You are fit for Vedanta. So if you are just seeing what type of sari the person is wearing and some other person, what is the say ornaments some other lady is wearing and how nice another lady looks, etc., etc., then we are not fit for Vedanta. Not because we are looking at the women, but because our attention is for various smaller things. So that is what we have seen it Bahya Alambanam in the earlier say shloka. So Sahanam, did I read this 24th shloka? No. So here the mind which is withdrawn from these external objects, it doesn't even notice even the physical discomforts, let us say. Physical discomforts like heat, cold, etc., etc., unless it is very, very intense. So that is what we see here. Sahanam sarvadukhanam apratikara purvakam Chinta vilaparahitam sa titiksha nigadyate. Chinta vilaparahitam sa titiksha. So sahanam sarvadukhanam, all types of discomforts. Dukkha means, literally means sorrow. It can mean say discomfort. In fact, there is this is like the shloka from Gita in the second adhyaya. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhadaha agamapayino anityaha tan titikshasva bharata. So that is, there the word titiksha is used. Matra sparshaha. There Krishna uses this word matra sparshaha. That is the impact, the sense impressions. All these sense impressions which we get. So these are ephemeral in nature. Agamapayinaha. Agamapayinaha means they just come and go. That's all. So that is what is titiksha. So realization that all these things are very, very ephemeral. So that is what is titiksha. So sahanam sarvadukkhanam apratikara purvakam. You don't even take any action to say resist them. Pratikara is to resist. Pratikara is to resist. You don't take any action. You don't bother to take any action to resist. That is what is called apratikara. We don't even bother to resist. That is sahanam. Sahanam is enduring. And chinta vilaparahitam. It is not as though you are enduring them out of say compulsion. Suppose you don't have a blanket, you are enduring cold. So it is not like that. Even when you are having a blanket, you are not bothered for it. Just a small example I am telling, by way of example. So chinta vilaparahitam. Chinta means sorrow. Vilapa means crying. Vilapa is lapa dhatu. Lapa means to talk. Vilapa means to cry. Chinta vilaparahitam. You don't feel sorrow, you don't cry. Without that, you are enduring it. You are enduring it without bothering for it. That is the point. Without bothering for it, without noticing it. Sa titiksha nigadyate. Nigadyate means it is told. It is told that gada dhatu. Gada dhatu, the meaning is it is told. Sa titiksha. This sort of endurance is called titiksha. So we have seen that uparati has to lead to titiksha. Uparati means bahya analambanam, withdrawing from bahya alambanam. So that leads to this titiksha. Then the next is Shraddha. After this titiksha is Shraddha. This is 25th shloka. Shastrasya guruvakyasya satya buddhyavadharanam sa shraddha kathita sadbhihi yaya vastu upalabhyate. Shastrasya guruvakyasya satya buddhya avadharanam. So this Shraddha is one thing which we have seen. Shraddha, I told you, I think earlier, that it is a slightly difficult word to translate. There are certain untranslatable words in Sanskrit, maybe in all languages, because a particular word has so many connotations depending on how it has been used in several contexts in a particular culture. For example, dharma. Dharma is a word which is used in so many senses in our say tradition. So it is very difficult to translate. Similarly, Shraddha is something which is difficult to translate. We can't simply translate it as faith. If you say faith, it means blind faith without any sort of say questioning say tendency. So here Shraddha is something where there is a trust, there is an element of trust, plus there is an earnestness. There is a yearning for knowledge, there is a yearning, there is an earnestness, there is a trust, there is a devotion. All these things combined is Shraddha. So devotion, faith, earnestness and all yearning, all these things combined is Shraddha. So he says, Shastrasya Guruvakyasya. There are two things. One is Shastra. Shastra is, I explained the meaning of Shastra earlier. Shastra means a scripture. Any Upanishad you say, Gita is a Shastra, Upanishad is a Shastra. Shastra, we are not referring to physics, mathematics, etc. We are referring to, say, the Shastra which is dealing with Atma Jnana. So, Shastrasya Vakyam. What Shastra is saying, okay, this is Tattvamasi. Some other thing, some other line it says, Aham Brahmasmi, etc. So, Shastra says, you are not a limited being, you are not a limited being. You are not somebody who is confined in this body-mind complex. Your real nature is something different. Your real nature is that of the same thing as Brahman. This Brahman is that pure consciousness and your real nature is that. And what you call this body-mind complex is only a creation of your, say, ajnana. So something like that it says, suppose the Shastra says. Then the person, not only Shastra, Guru Vakya. Guru also says the same. Because Guru is somebody who has realized that and then who is in that state of enlightenment. So of that, of the Shastra Vakya and Guru Vakya, Satya Buddhya Avadharanam. So one should have faith, yes, this man is telling the truth. Like a child believes in his father. Child naturally trusts his father. When the father says something, the child trusts. Because the child knows that the parent is interested in him. So that is why he trusts. So Satya Buddhya Avadharanam. Avadharanam means that is having a conviction. Yes, it is true. So that sort of avadharana. Avadharana, we know, avadharana is to have a firm, say, conviction, to have some trust. So that is avadharanam. Satyabuddhya avadharanam sa shraddha kathita sadbhihi. So that is what is called shraddha. Sadbhihi. Sadbhihi means by learned people, by wise people. Sadbhihi. Yaya vastu upalabhyate. By that only vastu. Vastu here means our goal, our lakshyam, our objective. What is that? That is Atmagyana. Atmagyana is attained only by that. Upalabhyate means it is attained. It is attained only by the Shraddha. Without this Shraddha, mere intellectual appreciation, it is not going to lead you to that experience. Intellectual attainment can be there. Okay, so at an intellectual level, you may say, okay, there is what is called consciousness, and that is something which is transforming or not transforming, it is appearing as all this universe, etc., etc. Because you don't find a better explanation. Even in modern science, you don't find a better explanation for that. Even science says the whole universe is a phenomena. So beyond that, we are not able to find out. So unless science proves Vedanta wrong, we can trust Vedanta. So because science has so far not disproved Vedanta. So sa shraddha kathita sadbhihi, yaya, if you say that there is some heaven somewhere, it is unscientific. Luckily Vedanta does not say that. Vedanta does not say that there is something called heaven. Shankaracharya very, very clearly says that all these things are happy mental states. So anyway, that is what is Shraddha. Then after Shraddha, it comes Samadhanam. Samadhanam, and then last one is, Samadhanam is that, the last one, Samadhanam. Samadhana is Sam Adhanam. Sam means well, properly. Adhanam means keeping. So keeping the mind in a proper, in a steady condition, a steady understanding of a thing. So that is what is Samadhana. He is going to say that. Say the Shringeri edition says Samyak Asthapanam. That seems to be better. Samyak Asthapanam seems to be better. Whereas this Ramakrishna edition says Sarvada Sthapanam Buddhehe Shuddhe Brahmani Sarvada. The Sarvada word is 2 times used in the same line. It may not be correct. I will read this shloka. Samyak Asthapanam Buddhehe Shuddhe Brahmani Sarvada Tat Samadhana Vityuktam Natu Chittasya Lalanam. So Samyag Asthapanam. So if you take this edition, Sarvada Sthapanam. Sthapanam means to keep something in a particular place is Sthapanam. So Sarvada is always. And that Shringeri edition says Samyag Asthapanam. Samyag means well. Asthapanam means firmly placing it in a particular way. So that the meaning almost is same. So Buddhehe Samyag Asthapanam. Buddhehe. Here you can see that Shankaracharya is using the word buddhi and not mind. Mind is manas. He is not using the word manas. We know that, say this Antahkarana, there are 4 levels. That is Manaha, Buddhihi, Ahankara and Chitta. Did I tell in this class? In this class I don't know whether I told. Mano Buddhi Ahankara Chittani Naham. There is another shloka from Acharya, Shankaracharya. That is, the mind functions at 4 levels. That is Manaha. Manaha is the most primary level where I look at a thing and then I am not sure what it is. It just gets registered in my mind. I am still in a sort of indeterminate condition. That is an indeterminate knowledge about a thing. That is just an awareness of a thing. And I don't even know whether I like it or not like it. So that is that first level, primary level. The second level is to just see what it is and then decide whether it is right or wrong, whether it is good or bad, whether I like it or dislike. So that is, I make a judgment on that. So that is what is buddhi. So manas is one thing, buddhi is the second thing. The third thing is ahankara. Ahankara, normally we use the word in a rather to mean proud. Here it is not pride. Here it is the notion of I. The ego sense, as we call it. The ego sense. Yes, I am aware of it. Yes, it is known to me. So that known to me, that ego sense is that what is called ahankara. Then the fourth level is called chittam. Chitta means maybe much later, After you see a thing and then you you just leave it and then you go to something else. So, but after some time, you just recall that experience to your mind. Recall the same idea. Recall that chitta vritti. We saw that word chitta vritti just now. So, recall that chitta vritti and then you speculate on that. So, that is called that faculty of recalling a thing back and then speculating on that is called chitta. So, there are 4 levels: manaha, buddhi, ahankara and chitta. So, here instead of using the word manaha, he is using the word buddhi. Buddhi means that decision making level. So, sarvada sthapanam buddhehe shuddhe brahmani sarvada. Shuddhe brahmani. Shuddha brahma means, shuddha means pure. Shuddhe brahmani means in the pure Brahman. So, when he says in the pure Brahman, it also means that there is what is called impure Brahman. Then what is that Shuddha Brahma and what is Ashuddha Brahma? So, what we have to know here is, say Shuddha Brahma is that pure Brahman, even say that what we define it as Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma is that pure Brahma. That is Brahman which has nothing to do with this creation, which has nothing to do with any of this say universe, etc., and which is pure state of consciousness. That is what is called Shuddha Brahma. And Vedanta, what Vedanta says is, then we have to account for how this universe has come into existence. What Vedanta says is, in that consciousness there is what is called a manifesting power or called Maya, and that Maya, when that consciousness associated with Maya takes the shape of a sort of will. So that universal will, that cosmic will is called the cosmic being. Another word called used for that word is Ishvara. Another word is Hiranyagarbha. We use some 2-3 different words for that. We call it Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha is that golden womb. Hiranyam is gold, Garbha is womb. Hiranyagarbha is that golden womb. Why do we call it golden womb? Because from that only, that is the starting point for everything. Because that is the starting point for all this universe, we call it Hiranyagarbha. We also call it Ishvara from the point of view of, he is the Ishvara, he is the creator, etc., etc. So, pure Brahma is something which has nothing to do with this Prakriti or Maya. That even that without that creative power also. So, that is what we visualize as the Supreme Brahma. And then this other creator level is called Maya, Maya Vachinna Chaitanyam. So, that is what we call Ishvara or Hiranyagarbha. So, this Hiranyagarbha and down, and in this universe again we observe various things like Srushti, Sthiti, Laya, etc. For Srushti we have given a name. Srushti means creation, Sthiti means sustenance, and then Laya is resolution. For Srushti we have given a name, we have called it Brahma. And I explained to you the meaning of 2 Brahmas. One is Shuddha Brahma, is pure consciousness. The other Brahma is at the level of creation, isn't it? So Brahma, we have given a name for that faculty of creation. For this faculty of sustenance or sustaining this universe, we have called it Vishnu. And the other faculty we called it as Rudra. Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, we called it. The 3 faculties are called. We are just giving some names. So when we say this creator Brahma, it does not mean that there is a person sitting there on a lotus and then a man with a white beard, and then next to him is his wife Saraswati, etc. That is a sort of visualization for the sake of common man. It is for the sake of a common man to understand that there are certain 3 faculties called Srushti, Sthiti, Laya. We are giving some names. So it is like that. So Srushti is something to do with the nature's laws, let us say. So that is why we see in Puranas that some demons, they also do tapas. For example, a Rakshasa does some tapas. And then Brahma gives them boons. Then this fellow commits all atrocities. He becomes very, very powerful. This demon becomes very, very powerful and then commits all atrocities. Then the law and order has to be maintained. That maintenance of law and order is the faculty. It comes under the faculty called sustenance. So that is why Vishnu takes birth and then comes to this world and then suppresses that evil. So all this thing is a sort of metaphorical representation or a sort of allegorical representation of a universal law. Even a bad fellow, if he works hard, he gets the result. Suppose a scientist is there. Scientists have created, for example, this atomic energy. atomic energy they have discovered, let us say. And then discovery of atomic energy is okay. But then using it as an atomic bomb is a sort of demonic act, or if it is used for good purposes, it is okay. But if it is used for killing, if it is used for overpowering, controlling the whole world, then that is an asuric or a demonic act. So giving nature has its own laws. You do hard work, you get result for that. So that is why a good person does tapas, he gets punyam. A bad person also does tapas, he also gets the result for that. So that is why Hiranyakasipu, a man like Hiranyakasipu, he seeks so many boons from the same Brahma. And then when he becomes, when his atrocities are say unlimited, then the Vishnu has to come down to put him down. So that is the law of nature. So we have given various names called Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, etc. to various things. All these are called the lower level of Brahma, we say, the lower level. So that is why when we see the word Shuddha Brahma is much, much above all these things. It is much above creation, it has nothing to do with creation. So that level is called Shuddha Brahma. All other things are the things which we visualize in Puranas, etc. So here what is expected is Sarvada Samyak Asthapanam Buddhehe Shuddhe Brahmani Sarvada. In that Shuddha Brahma, one is supposed to establish his mind. Asthapanam, establishing his mind. Tat samadhanam ityuktam. That is what is called samadhanam. Samyak adhanam. That is keeping it firm in that. Natu chittasya lalanam. Samadhanam can be of two types. So that is what he implies. Lalanam. Lalanam is what? When a child is there, the child cries. When the child cries, you give him some lollipop and then he keeps quiet. Then again, after some time, he again cries. You give another lollipop. So whenever it cries, you are giving a lollipop or giving some promise or a chocolate. So that is what is called lalanam. Lalanam is just making it quiet by pandering to its requests, by pampering it, by pandering to its requests. Here it is not that sort of pandering. Pandering is I think it is a proper word. We are not pandering to the child's requests. So we are not pandering to the requests of the buddhi. So this buddhi has made proper analysis and then it has rejected all these small things. So this sort of yielding to temptation does not arise. So why I suddenly got this word yielding to temptation, because there is an English writer called Oscar Wilde. So he says, Oscar Wilde, of course, his words need not be taken here as truth in this Vedanta class. What he says is, the best way of yielding to temptation, the best way of overcoming temptation is to yield to that. So that is not the way suggested in Vedanta. What he says is, the best way of overcoming temptation is to yield to that. That is, you are yielding again and again and again. Then where is the question of overcoming? So what he says, maybe a witty statement, that's a different thing. It can be a witty statement which cannot be taken in Vedanta. So, tat samadhanam ityuktam natu chittasya lalanam. It is not as though you are pandering, you are pampering like a child is pampered. That sort of pampering should not be there. Then the next is, we have completed this Samadhi Shatka Sampatti. That is the 6 points starting with Shama, Dama, Uparati, then Titiksha, Shraddha, Samadhanam. All the 6 we have completed. The last point is Mumukshutvam. Last point means among the fourfold sadhana chatushraya, that is what is called sadhana chatushraya, we have seen Nityanitya Vastu Viveka, we have seen Vairagya, we have seen the Samadhi Shatkam, the 6 starting with Shama. We are now seeing Mumukshutvam. What is this Mumukshutvam? Ahankaradi dehantan bandhan ajnana kalpitan swaswarupavabodhena moktum ichha mumukshata. Moktum ichha mumukshata. A clear definition. Moktum ichha mumukshata. So this moktum means to get liberated. Munch dhatu, munch. That is moktum ichha. That is to liberate these things. From what is the desire to liberate is what is called mumukshata. Liberate from what? Bandhan ajnana kalpitan. Ajnana kalpitan moktum. All these bondages. What are all these bondages? Ahankaradi dehantan bandhan. So starting with ahankara. Ahankara is the notion of I. So I told you in the last classes also, whenever I say I, there is a definition for I given to me by the society. The moment I am born, there is a stamp on me that he is born in a particular caste. So he belongs to a particular caste, he belongs to a particular religion, he is a male, she is a female. Then you belong to a particular country, you belong to a particular race. So all these things, a particular social stratification, you are a white, you are a black, etc., etc. All this thing is an identity given in that society. As we grow, then we get some other identities. That is, I become a doctor, I become an engineer, I become something else. I am rich, I am poor. So like that, various other identities you get. Then you get married, you become a husband, you get a child, you become a father, then you become a grandfather after some time. So you being a father, grandfather, then son, daughter, etc., etc., all these things, these are all the identity which gets over a period of time. This is our identity, isn't it? So this identity is a bandhanam. Bandhanam means a bondage. Identity is a bondage and we don't get liberated from that bondage. So ahankaradi dehantan, starting with this ahankara and then ending with this deha. So particularly with this, the entire thing is this with this body-mind complex only. All our bondage is with this body-mind complex only. So then what is this we have to do? What was suggested earlier, what the Vedanta suggests is, we should know what is me, what is really me and what is not really me. So if I say this body is mine, when I say something is mine, I am not that. Whatever I can dissociate, it is not me. So when I say this finger is mine, the finger is not me. So similarly the body is mine, I am not the body. So that sort of awareness, that sort of analysis, that druk drushya viveka, I am the seer and what is the seen? What the seer? Who is the seer in the body? So that has to be seen. The seer, when I say that I, who is this I? So ultimately we come to that question of who am I? So for this who am I, maybe we have to read that Ramana Maharshi's say dialogues, that famous discussions with Ramana Maharshi. They are all there in a book form. So the pet topic there is who am I? So that gives a lot of it is a good way to do chintanam. That is because all these sages or these Swamijis, what they do is they help us in doing chintanam. Because our chintanam may not be perfect. Our chintanam is just vacillating. You get vairagyam for a minute, then again you are attracted to something else. So if we want to avoid all that and get into some sort of steadfast chintanam, we have to read that say things like that Ramana Maharshi's dialogues, etc. So this swaswarupavabodhena moktumicha. This moktumicha is not possible just like that. Moktumicha is possible only by swarupa avabodhena. Swarupa. Swa means one's own. Rupa means nature. Swarupa. That is one's own nature. That is who am I. The basic point is who am I. Swaswarupa avabodhena. So it is only when you do that druk drushya viveka or kshetra kshetrajna viveka, as we have seen in the Gita, unless we do that, unless we take up this question, who am I, unless we pose that question to ourselves, there is no way of getting this mumutshata. The deep desire or deep yearning will arise only when we put that question to ourselves. So we will continue in the next class. Harihi Om Tat Sat.